Hello everyone, my name is Rick van Bruggen from NEO, and here we are again recording a podcast session for our Neo4j Graph Database podcast. And tonight, just this morning actually, on the show I have Stefan Armbruster with me from Munich. Hi Stefan.
Hey Rick, how you doing?
I'm doing really well, how are you?
Perfectly fine.
Super. Is the weather as nice over there as it is over here?
Yeah, we have now today it's getting more than 30 degrees, so I'm already have the shirts and t-shirt.
Same here, same here. Hey Stefan, well, this is a podcast where we sort of talk to people about, their relationship to graphs and graph databases.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself, your work, and how you got to graph databases?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, my name is Stefan. I'm from Munich in Germany. I'm one of the field engineers within NEO Technology. So it's basically the interface between the customers and the engineering team. So we work with very deep technical background, and the ultimate goal is to make the customers successful, make sure their projects run well, and make them happy that they can spend more bucks on us, of course. That's
Absolutely,
the ultimate goal.
And
Yeah.
if I recall correctly, Stefan, you and me started together about a year ago, didn't we?
About 3 years ago.
3 years ago, I mean, yes.
Yeah, that was this nice company meeting in Sweden,
Yeah.
where they served so good food, so I finally decided to sign the contract. But be more honest, my story to NEO was started already more than 7 years ago.
Wow.
So this was the first great conference in Copenhagen. At the time being, I was working as a freelancer, did a lot of work with Grails and built some websites or some web applications for my customers. And there was the first conference on the Grails framework. And there was another guy attending from Sweden, Emil. And after some beers in the evening, I got in touch with him. He talked some crazy things about graph databases, some fancy stuff. And, well, at the first place, I said, okay, well, it sounds interesting, but I don't see a use case for me here. So I put it on my large list of technologies to take a look at. Yeah. After some months, I really looked at Neo4j. So this was way before the 0.1 version way before the 1.0 version. So this was not a 0 point something, whatever. And I was really pleased by the cleanness of the Java API. At the time being, there was no Cypher, there was no server, so Neo4j was just a kind of embedded graph database for Java.
Wow.
That's why it was 4j.
And so you wrote the Groovy driver, is that true? Or how did...
driver. So for Groovy, you don't need a driver because Groovy is basically Java.
Okay.
So I wrote the Grails driver, and this was then the next step. So a couple of months later, I was getting asked to deliver a project where you can place votes on the ecosystem of football. So you can express your opinion. Well, was the red card in that game in minute 45 justified? Or who will be the next champion? Will the trainer of that team be fired? So they try to aggregate the opinions of the fans together. And since you can put a vote on everything, and everything can be potentially connected with everything else in that data set, it's naturally a graph. And this was my eye-opener, and I said, okay, we should use Neo4j for that project. But I also wanted to use Grails because that's my common framework years ago. And then I decided to bring the two things together and wrote the first version of the Grails driver.
Yeah. And nowadays you still use that a lot, or do you more use Java?
To be honest, I'm still maintaining the Grails driver. Currently, it's a little bit rotten, so I need to spend some more time to deliver the version 2.0 for the Grails driver, which then will be only based on Cypher and JDBC.
Okay.
And therefore, it's also future-proof already. Yeah. And if we look a little bit in the future, I also have a plan to merge efforts with the Spring Data Neo4j project to reuse their mapper, because that's a little bit more powerful than what I've did naively.
Super cool. So Stefan, you mentioned sort of how you got into it, but what do you love about it? What do you think is so powerful about a graph and a graph database? Is there anything that jumps out?
What I like, of course, I'm a big fan of open source software, so I really appreciate that we're completely open source. I think it's very easy to make more sense out of data, basically. So you can organize your data into a graph, and then you can have immediately some new insights which you didn't know beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
And
what kind of insights would that be? Things like new unknown connections or stuff like that?
Unknown connections, so you can easily infer connections. So, as a simple example, we both work for NEO, so it's we have a works-for relationship to NEO as a company. And as a indirection, since NEO is a rather small still, 100 people, there is an implicit relationship between you and me because we know each other.
Sure. Absolutely.
So that can be inferred without having that explicitly as a data. So you can infer hidden knowledge, basically.
Yeah.
And that's in my opinion, that's more or less kind of philosophical thing. The interesting part from a pure IT perspective, the cool thing is that you can query graph database independent of the data size. So your queries, as long as they're local, won't get slower just because you're growing the data set.
Yeah, that's a really powerful feature, right? I mean, every customer that I meet or user that I meet loves that, graph locality piece of it.
That's super cool.
Well, we actually have a hidden connection in common as well, right? Our love for fantastic beers, right?
Oh yes. Bit a common kind of beer, but a different kind of beer, but yes.
Absolutely. No, you gave me some really nice beers a while back. That's really nice of you.
The Unadler, right?
Yes, I think so. Yeah,
I remember that one.
Very cool. So, what does the future hold, Stefan? Where is this thing going? What do you think is like the big things coming up for you and for us for the industry? What's your perspective on that?
Well, I think the adoption will grow since graph databases are, from a mental perspective, rather close to relational databases. It's easy for people to move over, so they don't need to change too much. But of course, they need to change something. So I think we will see a graph databases being as common used in the industry as today Oracle or DB2.
That's an aggressive statement.
It's not going to happen next year, and probably not the next 1 year. But if you look in the large scope for 5 years, that is probably where I see the future.
Well, it's a very natural evolution, right? I mean, so many people, it's such a natural way for people to deal with data, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. And if we look more the short term, what I'm really looking forward is the new binary protocol that we will see most likely end of the year for version 3.0.
Yeah.
That makes the interactions with client drivers much more easy and much more unified.
Yeah, that's the replacement protocol for REST, right? Or, complementary to REST, right?
Complementary, so we will have the REST protocol forever, I guess.
Yeah.
But the binary on the side provides a unique, kind of completely redesigned interface. There is already a kind of spike on a Java driver that uses that protocol. Yeah. And on top of the Java driver, I'm currently doing a little bit of spiking on implementing JDBC for that. Mm-hmm. Because I think JDBC is the key integration technology that allows anyone to use Neo4j within their existing infrastructure.
Absolutely.
Think of all the BI tools, all the reporting tools. Everyone has a JDBC interface, and by that we can just easily plug in the graph database in existing infrastructures.
Yeah, because the current JDBC driver uses REST, and that's you could replace that REST layer with the binary protocol. Then.
Yeah, and even if users, so people using the current REST-based JDBC driver,
yep.
Migrating that over is a completely no-brainer because they don't have to rewrite the single. They just have to change the URL and the driver, but they don't have to change a single line of code.
Super interesting. Thank you, Stefan. Well, we want to keep these podcasts reasonably short, right? So thank you for coming online and talking to me. It was really interesting, and I'm hoping we'll see each other again very soon, probably this summer.
Hopefully,
exactly.
with some beers.
With some beers, exactly. Thank you, Stefan. Have a nice
Thank
day.
you so much, Rick. Have a nice good day. Thank you. Goodbye.